Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Akhandam Sachidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhiladharam Ashraye Bhishta Siddhaye Arthatopi Advayanandan Atita Dvaita Bhanataha Guru Naradya Vedanta Saram Vaksheyata Mati. So we saw Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanam last time. All that we have seen. Any questions, clarifications on this? Yeah? Yeah, Kiran, bolo.
They have something. Again, you can explain that word.
Yeah, okay. So, see, what is meditation? Now, if you are going to look at the big picture of meditation, it's a huge topic, okay? We are choosing, thanks Bharati, yeah. We are choosing out of that what is applicable for Vedanta post Shravanam. Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. So we are restricting the meaning of meditation only to Nididhyasana. Okay. That's why the word, instead of using the word meditation, etc., very often we use the word contemplation. To contemplate on the truth. So, what is it? He says, the idea is simple. You are immersing yourself in the truth. In the knowledge of the truth, your mind is being immersed in it. Remember the example of the Rasgulla. Yeah. So you are immersing it. Now to immerse this yourself in the knowledge, you can't afford other things impinging in it. No? Like when I take a class, there will be Arthavada, stories will be there, illustrations will be there, logic will be there, so many things will be there. But in contemplation, you are going to keep all that aside. So keeping all that aside, he is saying, Vijatiya Vritti Sara aside. So how do you do that? First, like we saw last time we practiced, make the mind quiet first. Quiet and centered on yourself. Then introduce the knowledge of what exactly you are. Without the elaborateness of logic and stories and illustrations, etc., there is the essence of the knowledge that you are pure consciousness. So keeping other thoughts away, you are just bringing this and soaking yourself in this knowledge. The more you soak yourself in the knowledge, the more it will become yours. So whatever happens in life, it will never be out of sight, out of mind for you. It will always be there. So that is the whole idea. It's very simple. But it requires a doing. Now when I use the word doing, people may think it is an action. But contemplation is not an action. Now, if you are doing an energy meditation, if you are doing an upasana, those are actions. Why? Because there is karma, karma phalam. Contemplation is not an action. It looks like an action because you are choosing to do it. It looks like an action. But it is not an action because it ends where it begins. Contemplation begins by saying I am consciousness. Where does it end? In the fact you are consciousness. An action does not end where it begins. An action has progression. Whereas here in contemplation, it ends where it begins. Therefore, in that sense, it's not an action. But at the same time, there is some doing involved because you have to choose to soak yourself into that knowledge. So that soaking yourself in this knowledge is what we call contemplation. Pujya Swamiji's old example, Rasagulla, works well. Let the gulla soak itself into the rasa. Jalebi is the same thing. It's not a dip. You don't dip into the sugar solution and take it out. You soak it there. The longer it is soaked, the better it is. Yeah. See, by that time, the Rasgulla is ready for sales, to sell it. They got into the market. Okay? I'm talking about Rasgullas made in Calcutta, in all the small shops, freshly made. Now, by the time they are selling it, it's also already ready to be eaten. That means the rasa has permeated the gulla, everything. But when they sell it to you, supposing you want to go and buy a dozen of them, they'll give you a nice mud pot and they'll fill it with rasa still. Why is ready na? Idna rasa kyun dalne ka? The longer it soaks, the better it is. So how long will you do contemplation? Longer the better. Keep doing it. Until it is never out of sight, out of mind. Until somebody throws a bucket of water on you and you get up and ask you about Vedanta, you can tell it. Until then, okay? Until then. Yeah. You know, once I remember, in the afternoon I was in Puja Swamiji's room and I had to look through some papers, files and all. And Swamiji said, I'm catching a nap, you'll finish that? I said, yes Swamiji, you want me to take the whole thing outside? No, don't take all that thing outside, it'll get lost here and there. You sit down quietly and do it, I'm going to catch a nap. I said, okay Swamiji. So I was working quietly. So I asked him before that, Swamiji, can I take the phone off the hook? No, I'm expecting a call. So he was fast asleep. I knew he was fast asleep. Suddenly the phone rang. He picked it up. He says, hello. Yeah. Yes. Remember yesterday I told you this. He was actually continuing a Vedanta lesson on the phone that he had stopped yesterday. Without a break, straight on. When you can do that, you can stop contemplating. Okay? When you can do that, you can stop contemplating. Until then you keep contemplating. Okay? Yeah. Because how long? Puchega. Yeah. Or like another Mahatma I studied from in Rishikesh, Tirthaji, Harihara Tirtha is no more. He also had a samadhi. All that whole generation is gone. And a lady asked him after the satsang, Maharaji, how many hours do you meditate every day? And he replied, why do you want to put this disturbance called meditation into my mind? That is another landmark, okay? Until then you can, after that you can stop contemplating. Okay, so until then, some contemplation is good. All right. Any other questions?
Swamiji,
Yeah?
Samadhi going into
Yeah, we are going into samadhi. Don't jump.
Is it,
We are going into samadhi.
that will be an action or no?
Nope. I'll clarify. With samadhi, let me come to samadhi. Na? That time I'll clarify. Now, right now at nididhyasanam. Shravanam, manana, nididhyasanam. Atmavare shrotavya, mantavya, nididhyasitavya. We are stuck up to there. Clear up to now? Shall we go ahead? Okay, all right, fine. Now, going into samadhi. Okay, let's see what he says. Samadhi dvida. Samadhi is of two types, broad categorization. Savikalpo, nirvikalpascheti. It's called Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa. Savikalpas with distinctions. Nirvikalpa without distinction. Distinction here will be seer seen. With seer seen distinction, without that. What do you mean by that? Here, I'll tell you what I mean by that. Tatra savikalpo nama jnatra jnanadi vikalpayan apeksha advitiya vasuni tad akara karita ya ashita vrittehes avasthanam. People are joining in late. Yeah. Okay. As far as Savikalpa Samadhi is concerned, as I said before, you have to bring the knowledge into your mind. So you, the seeker, is there, the knower is there. You have brought in that knowledge into your mind, and you are making that knowledge yours. Therefore, that jnatra jnana bheda is there. You are the knower, and you are bringing the knowledge into your mind. You are conscious of this difference. Correct or not? In contemplation, because you are doing it consciously, you are not doing it mechanically. You are not doing it mechanically. Therefore, this is called, your mind is soaked in the knowledge, but you have to keep bringing the knowledge into your mind. No? You have to keep bringing it. Shuddham Brahma, okay. I am that consciousness which is everywhere. Okay. I am consciousness completely asangaha, untouched by anything. All this you are thinking. There are thoughts there. There is you and the thinking. The knowledge is in the form of a thought. You are there bringing that thought into your mind. This is what you do. This what you do is called Savikalpa Samadhi. Understood or not understood? In fact, this is the nididhyasanam that you are practicing. The nididhyasanam that you are practicing is this much. This is what you practice. So, the practice of nididhyasanam itself is called Savikalpa Samadhi. Any questions up to now? Don't jump into Nirvikalpa. I'll do that. But up to now, any questions? So, is this an action? It looks like because you are bringing in the thought. But remember, it is ending where it is beginning. The thought is I am consciousness, starting point. Ending point is also I am consciousness. No? So, it looks as though it is an action, but there is no progress, there is no movement. I am that consciousness, finished. Untouched by anything, done. Free from everything, done. Everything is in me consciousness, done. Therefore, there is no movement. You begin with consciousness, you end with consciousness. But there is an attempt. Therefore, it looks like an action. But there is no karma phala for this. By practicing nididhyasanam, what is the karma phala you will get? Will you go to heaven? Will you go to this? Will you go to nothing? The knowledge will become yours. This is the knack. You develop the knack of the knowledge being with you all the time. What example can I give you? Okay. Remember how you learned cycling? How did you learn to balance? See, for cycling you require balance. Therefore, I joined a yoga class, okay, and developed my sense of balance. I can stand for more than 1 minute on one leg with closed eyes. Very good. Tell me, with that, will you be able to balance on a cycle? So, how did you gain the balance? By getting onto the cycle and pedaling. Did you put it on the stand and pedal, you will get the balance? Nope.
You learn by falling only.
You develop by falling only.
For 3-4 times,
But by falling, What is the karma phala you will get? All the bruises. Balance is not karma phala. Without karma, you don't get it. But it's not karma phalam. If you are pedaling, you will go forward. If you fall, you will get bruises. Karma phalam. Balance is a knack that you developed in the process of cycling, learning to cycle. It's a knack that you developed. It's very peculiar. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? It's a knack that you develop. Similarly here, the knack of being with yourself is what you are developing. In contemplation, you are developing the knack of being with this knowledge. This knowledge not going out of sight for you. Very peculiar. That's why it's called Nididhyasanam, or otherwise known as Savikalpa Samadhi. Now, there are other types of Savikalpa Samadhi also. If you sit down and try to quieten the mind, the very attempt at quietening the mind is part of Savikalpa Samadhi. Therefore, other types of Savikalpa Samadhi exist. We are concerned with what is important for us in Vedanta. Okay. I can give you a dozen types of other meditations. Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa, etc. all that. But this Savikalpa is different. Okay. This Savikalpa is from Nididhyasanam, from the purely Vedantic angle. Therefore, this meditation is different from other meditation that you will do. There is Shunya meditation. I don't know why they call it Shunya meditation, the wrong terminology. I think it's a Buddhist influence. I find yoga teachers also using that term. I think popularized by people like Ravi Shankar and Sadhguru. It's not Shunya meditation. It's being centered on yourself.
Amaji, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Swamiji, that my name is Bhushan, I'm a male, I have two hands, comes very naturally to me.
Yeah.
Don't have to think about it. So the knowledge needs to be that affirmative. But when I see a sunset, it's still very overwhelming to me. That knowledge that this is not real or the sky is not blue. That time I get overtaken by the senses or the visual that it is. So,
Yeah.
Same way when I'm meditating, this knowledge is not coming to me when I'm dealing with a life situation. The situation is
Exactly.
compared to my name being Bhushan.
That is why you have to keep contemplating until it is natural. Like how you can enjoy the sunset, enjoy the whole riot of colors, etc., enjoy the whole feeling, enjoy the whole experience, without forgetting it is mithya. Knowing full well the sun doesn't rise or set, you can still enjoy it. No? Why I am saying you can still enjoy it? Because never for a moment does a doubt come in your mind, will the sun come up tomorrow? Will the sun disappear into the sea? No. You are enjoying what is there. Because the knowledge of what sunrise, sunset is complete in your mind. When you can do the same thing in Vedanta, enjoy the play of life, the game of life, the battles of life, without losing sight of the fact, I am that pure consciousness, then you are at home with Vedanta. In other words, that I am the consciousness should be as clear as your Bhushan right now, if not clearer. Then the knowledge is complete. So how long do you have to meditate? Some time. How can I say how long? Some time. Yeah. All of us require it for some time. There is no rule, but we require it. Why there is no rule? Because knowledge takes place in Shravanam. So, keep going. So, this is Savikalpa Samadhi as far as all right. Okay. Then what happens? Tada mrunmaya jagadadi bhanepi Mrud bhanavad dvaita bhanepi advaitam vastu bhasate. What happens in that state of knowledge? It's a state of pure knowledge. It's not just quietening the mind. Quietening the mind you can do in other disciplines. Here you introduce a thought. Therefore, what happens? Dvaita bhane api. Jagadadi bhane api. Seer, seen, all that duality is there. Dvaitam is there. Like when you see a pot, he gives an example. When you see the pot, but you don't miss the clay. Once you know it is made of clay, you see it as a clay pot. Clay is there in the form of a pot. Similarly, he says, Dvaita bhanepi, seer, seen, difference is there. You are introducing the thought, etc. of knowledge. But Dvaita bhanepi, Advaita vastu bhasate. The reality of Advaita is there in your mind, is shining clearly in your mind. Seer, seen difference is there, but in spite of that, the knowledge of non-duality is also equally clear. Getting it or not getting it? Practice the meditation I made you all do last time. Practice that. If you practice that, you will become clear. You will know what is happening. Okay? You will know what is happening. That, yeah, that is true. I am introducing the thought, all this is nothing but consciousness. So all this is there, but nothing but consciousness is also there. The pot is there, but you recognize the clay. Thoughts are there, you recognize one consciousness. In fact, the thoughts help you to recognize one consciousness. Thought is not your enemy. That you can do in Shunya practice. There thought becomes your enemy. For us, thought is not our enemy.
Swamiji, may I ask?
Yeah, should Neeta.
No, I'm just wondering when this stage, when, as you said, that in spite of Vaitam, you realize that comes only with greater knowledge or?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it should.
Without knowledge, you can't have this.
Now, at what stage then?
No. Without gaining this knowledge in Shravanam, there is no way you can do Nididhyasanam.
Yeah.
You can do other forms of meditations. You cannot do Nididhyasanam unless you have gained some insights in Shravanam.
Right.
Not possible.
Yes.
Not possible. Some insights you have to have gained. Then you can work for greater clarity, etc. in Nididhyasanam, that's feasible. But you need to have a lot of insights. You know, this comes from a feeling that meditation is the highest, meditation is the highest. Somewhere वो भूसा घुस गया, that कीड़ा घुस गया मन में. Media created, I am telling you. How will you say a rishi somewhere? Meditating somewhere. Yeah. Once or twice when I was writing an article somewhere, they came and asked, Swamiji, can we have a photograph of you meditating somewhere? I said, no. Put a mugshot of mine. I don't want to perpetuate that wrong thinking, you know. Yeah. Agreed, a sadhu's life is a contemplative life. But a contemplative life doesn't mean you're sitting down under a bodhi tree. Yeah. You're not. And later on we will see that. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhi. Wherever the mind goes, the mind is in samadhi. He says that. We'll see that later. Yeah. So, this Savikalpa Samadhi is what you are doing. This is the practice of Nididhyasanam. Itself is called as Savikalpa Samadhi. Then why use the term Savikalpa Samadhi? Not necessary. It is not really necessary. Nididhyasanam is good enough. But because of other disciplines like Sankhya, Yoga, etc., this terminology is there so that the students will have this doubt in their mind. The author is saying this practice of Nididhyasanam itself, as far as we are concerned, is what we call as Savikalpa Samadhi. Vikalpas are there, seer seen logic is there. When you are doing Shunya meditation, etc., that attempt to get into that Shunya, what they call Shunya, whatever it is, that attempt itself is called Savikalpa.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Shoot.
Yeah. So in Nididhyasanam, when you say you introduce a thought,
Hmm.
right, and you introduce the thought, I am that consciousness. Now the thought will come, the thought will die.
Hmm.
So you reintroduce the thought.
One moment. One moment for that answer. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me read the next. It will come in 197. Okay, yeah. Now, after having said this much, he says, hey, this is not my own thing. This is what the Parampara is talking about. He is quoting Upadesha Sahasri, Shankara's work. Drishisswarupam gaganopamam param sakrad vibhatam tu ajamekam aksharam alepakam sarvagatam yat advayam tadeva chaham satatam vimuktam om. He is quoting from Upadesha Sahasri, okay, where dealing with Nididhyasanam, Shankara has given a few verses. Okay, Shankara has given a few verses. He says, Drishisswarupam, the Swarupa of the seer. Drishisswarupam. Gaganopamam param, which is absolute, all pervading like the sky. Sakrad vibhatam, always of the nature of consciousness. Tu ajamekam aksharam, it is one, it is not, ajam, it is not born, aksharam doesn't decline, it is not touched by time. Alepakam, cannot be touched by anything else. Sarvagatam, all pervading. Yat advayam, non-dual. Tadeva chaham, that alone I am. Satatam vimuktam, always free, never bound. Om. Any one word can be taken and used for contemplation. Any one word. Advayam, Drishisswarupam, the truth of the seer. I am aware of everything else. I am aware of the fact, I am aware of everything else. So I am that awareness which is untouched by anything. Right there. Nididhyasanam happens. Right there. Yeah. So any one word can be picked up. Okay. This is something, when you start doing this on your own, there will be some words which are your favorite, some examples which will work well for you. That's all fine. Whatever works, works. As long as you can center on the truth of what you are in Savikalpa. Getting this much?
Sorry, Swamiji, sorry, what is the first word?
Huh? What is that?
The first word of the sloka,
Drishisswarupam, the truth of that seer.
truth of the seer.
Yeah. Drishihi, the one who sees. Tasya swarupaha. Drishisswarupam. Yeah. Then the thought is not going to always remain, as Sunita was asking. It's going to die down, no? Correct or not? What do you do then? Here it is. Nirvikalpastu jnatra jnanadi vikalpa apekshaya advitiya vastuni tad akara karitaya ashita vrittehe अतिरेकम एक ही भावेन अवस्था एक ही भावेन अवस्थानम. They are breaking up at all the wrong places. Okay, now look at it. What is Nirvikalpa Samadhi is talking about? Now look at it. In Savikalpa, that Jnatra Jnana Bheda was there. When you are focusing on that knowledge, what will happen? the form, the thought will go, only the Advitiya Vastu will be there. Only the Advitiya Vastu will. Tad akara karitaya. Okay. Chitta vrittehe. The chitta vritti, I am that pure consciousness. Vritti gone, what remains is the knowledge that you are pure consciousness. Eki bhavena avasthanam. Remain there. Remain there with the understanding that I am that pure consciousness. What is that? I am pure consciousness. Vritti has died down. Kritva jnanam swayam nashet. Like akhandakara vritti. You are bringing back the akhandakara vritti in your mind. So that seer seen is also gone. You remain as a flame of awareness. You remain as pure consciousness. This is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Jnana Lakshana Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It's not Andha Samadhi. This is Jnana Lakshanam. In this Samadhi, it's full, your Nirvikalpa is full of knowledge, not full of ignorance. Your mind is not resolved in Ajnanam as in deep sleep. Your mind is resolved into the consciousness. Then what happens? How long will you remain there? I don't know. How long will you remain? I don't know. 1 minute? 5 minutes? 1 hour? 1 day? 3 days? 3 days and your relatives will call me up. We'll come and make a samadhi around you. Okay. We'll break a coconut on your head and put a samadhi around you. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. If you go to sleep and you are not kept an alarm, how long are you going to sleep? Well, I plan to get up in 10 minutes. I program my mind, 10 minutes I should be up. Guarantee, eh? Whenever prarabdha wakes you up, you will wake up. So similarly, when another thought comes, you will be up out of that samadhi. Then if you want, you can repeat the whole process again. Then you can reintroduce the thought. Sunita, this is clear? You can reintroduce the thought there. And then again back into samadhi. Okay, fine. Some days it will happen. See, Nirvikalpa Samadhi has to happen. You practice Savikalpa. Whether it is Andha Samadhi or Jnana Samadhi like this, in both cases, Nirvikalpa has to happen. Savikalpa, you have a choice of practicing. Some days it will happen, some days it may not happen. Some days you are distracted by other things. Some days is fine. Ho gaya, acha ho gaya, acha. Yeah, that's okay. That's part of the game of life. So you don't come and tell me I'm practicing Nirvikalpa Samadhi, okay? You know nothing then. You're doing Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa happens. And you'll get out of it also on its own. You can't do anything to get out of it also. No, Swamiji, I'll ensure I'll get out of it. After 10 minutes, I have my alarm kept. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that if you are in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you'll hear the alarm. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to be worried because your prarabdha will pull you out, okay? There's a lot of prarabdha all of us have and that will pull us out of it. Yeah. But Swamiji, I am already 90-year-old. I may not have much prarabdha left. Then you're going in the best way possible. Then you're going in the best way possible, isn't it? You're sitting in samadhi and going, "Arey, aur kya chahiye?" Yeah. Okay. All right. For which now He is giving a very beautiful example. This example is very beautiful. He says, Tadatu Jalakara Karitha Lavana Avabhasena Jalamatra Avabhasavad Advitiya Vastu Akara Karita Chitta Vritya Vrityavan Avabhasena Advitiya Vastu Matram Avabhasate. He says, take a spoon of salt and put it into the water. For some time the salt will be seen. The water will become salty and the salt will also be seen. After some time what happens? The salt is not seen, only the water remains. But the water is salty. Similarly, you are doing the Savikalpa and that consciousness. After some time, thought goes, only consciousness remains. The mind is there but full of this knowledge. It is so soaked in that knowledge. You are in Nirvikalpa. Mind is there. Don't tell me mind is not there, okay? Mind is not functioning. Mind is there, all right. Yeah. If the mind is not there, how did it come up again when you got out of Samadhi? So when you got out of it, okay, fine. Want to repeat? Repeat. Don't want to repeat? Enough for today? Enough for today.
Swamiji, does that mean that Nirvikalpa Samadhi will definitely happen if it is a...
There is no guarantee Nirvikalpa Samadhi will happen. Nor it is necessary. Practice of Savikalpa is good enough. Generally it will happen. Generally it will happen. It may happen for a split second. For a very short period of time, you may not even be consciously registering it. You may not even consciously register it. It can happen. Is it necessary? No. Savikalpa practice is good enough. Because you want to own up the knowledge. No? We are not talking about achieving Nirvikalpa Samadhi. We are talking about understanding Nirvikalpoham, I am Nirvikalpa, because all Vikalpas are Mithya. All divisions are Mithya. What is there is one Nirvikalpa consciousness. That alone is there. We are talking about understanding that. We are not talking about an experience. That experience orientation, we leave it to those people who want to get experiences. They are experience hunters. Experience hunter equals samsari. Why? You want samsari is one who wants looking at different experiences. No? I want to go there, see that's a great experience. I want to do this thing, that's a great experience. Acha hai. Why do you want all these great experiences? You are running away from yourself because you can't stand the fact that you are miserable. You can't stand that fact that you are miserable. Therefore, you want all the experiences of life to make you feel good about yourself. Yeah, to make you feel good about yourself, you need all these experiences. No, Swamiji, I am bored, Bored with what? What are you bored with? Tell me, what are you bored with? 2 years we are sitting at home. So, sit at home, na, acha hai, na. What are you bored with? No exercise. Exercise I can understand, for health's sake. Do that. That you can always do. You think we can exercise only in a gym or what? Can't exercise at home? Can't go for a walk? Can't do body weight exercises? So many things are there to remain fit. What are you bored with? Yourself. Or kya? Traveling to broaden your mind is different. Traveling to meet people is different. Traveling to work is different. Other than that, traveling is what? Experience hunting. Keep that in mind. Well, I am not against travel, okay? If you are having a holiday somewhere, please go to Sri Lanka, okay? Their economy is in a bad shape. They have only travel industry, tourism industry, nothing else. And we have given them $1 billion soft credit. So if you want to get that money back, please, if you're going on holiday, please go to Sri Lanka. It's a great place for a holiday. Yeah. Not a great place for work, okay? Nothing is happening there. Yeah. Before the Chinese take over the whole country, better go there and have a look at it.
So Swamiji, Nididhyasnam therefore implies repetition of the knowledge as
Yes.
opposed to clarifying.
Yeah. That is why another term used for Nididhyasnam is Jnana Abhyasaha. Repetition of knowledge. Jnana Abhyasa. Not practice of knowledge. People mistake it as practice. It's actually repetition. You're repeating the knowledge. You can't practice knowledge. How can you practice I am awareness? You can't practice. But you can repeat that knowledge in your mind. You can repeat that thought in your mind. Therefore, it is also called Jnana Abhyasa. But remember, neither meditation nor Jnana Abhyasa is going to give you knowledge. Knowledge is gained in Shravanam. It is only owned up by Jnana Abhyasa. It's only owned up by Nididhyasanam. It is only owned up in Savikalpa. It's owned up in Nirvikalpa. Okay. Okay. Now he is clarifying something. As far as the Nirvikalpa Samadhi that you gain in Nididhyasanam is concerned. Tatascha asya susukte cha abheda shanka na bhavati. Don't doubt that this is nothing but deep sleep. Don't doubt that, he says. Why? Ubhayatra vritti abhane samane api. Even though in both cases there is no vrittis, vritti abhava. Absence of vrittis is a fact in deep sleep as well as in samadhi. Tat sadbhava asadbhava matrena anayoho bheda avapatihi. What happens? In samadhi, the knowledge exists, tad bhane api. Even though the thought is not there, kritva jnanam swayam nashyet. Having created that knowledge, it has died down. Therefore, the knowledge exists in samadhi, it does not exist in deep sleep. Okay? Atma Jnanam is there in Nididhyasanam, and the Nirvikalpa Samadhi that you have gone in with Nididhyasanam, but it is not there in deep sleep state. As far as you have gone into Nirvikalpa Samadhi from Nididhyasanam. If you have gone into Nirvikalpa Samadhi on the basis of some practice, you will come back the same idiot, the same ignorant person. You remember my story I told you all? भूल गया रहेगा. Many years ago, I used to go to my South Bombay class. Okay. Now my South Bombay class was at Laburnum Road, very close to Chowpatty. And those days I used to go by bus. There was some buses, you can never be sure, can reach you half an hour early or half an hour late. So I used to go to Chowpatty beach. If I am early, I used to go have a walk in Chowpatty beach and come back, go to my class. And I used to see this guy who is buried in the sand, complete, had everything inside, 1 feet down. Says, wow, you have to be in Samadhi, in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, otherwise you can't do that. because your breathing will slow down to 1.5 hours or something. There is enough oxygen trapped in the sand for that much. There is no way you can survive being buried in the sand like that unless you are in samadhi. So one day, when I went there on a day when I didn't have a class, and I waited and watched. क्या होता है देखने दो. So once it was nearing sunset, they had 3-4 disciples. They all of them removed the sand and pulled them out. And after some time, we became fine. Then that particular day, there was a cloth kept, and people would put some coins, this, that, etc. So that day he got up here. He asked us, "Kitna aa gaya hai? How much money is it?" This Maharaj ji, 10 रुपया है. क्या मायापुरी है, 10 रुपया ही मिला. He is unhappy right there. खाली 10 रुपया. Then he looks at me, बाबा जी देखो ना, हम लोग 4 मूर्ति है, 10 रुपया में क्या खाएगा हम लोग. Did he come out of samadhi saying muktoham, jnatoham, anandoham, etc.? No. He is coming saying 10 रुपया में क्या खाएगा हम लोग. What will I eat in $10? There are 4 of us. So I said, Maharaj ji, आज हम खिलाएगा खाना, चलिए. So there is a small shop there, it's a small little restaurant there. We went down, sat, all of us had a meal together. A funny sight for others who were there. 5 sadhus sitting on a table, eating dal roti and this thing. And some bhindi ka sabji. It was an Irani shop, so that's all that was available. Okay. Now it has become ideal cafe, etc. It has become a big place, a more sophisticated place. Those days I'm talking about. Now, he had gained this, he had learned this technique of getting into samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But there was no knowledge, etc. It was just a technique. Many teachers teach these techniques. They call it Shunya Meditation, etc., etc., etc. It is good for controlling your mind. There's benefit in it. You will gain mastery over your mind. I also have done this. Before I joined the ashram, out of my foolishness, I thought samadhi will give you knowledge. So maybe practice kiya hai. Nothing happened. Okay. Yeah. So this guy also learned the technique, but no knowledge. So that is called Andha Samadhi. It is as good as deep sleep. That's pure Andha Samadhi. That is what we are critical about when we teach about Samadhi practice. If we are critical about Samadhi practice, this is what we are critical about, Andha Samadhi. Whereas going into Samadhi from Nididhyasanam, that mind is full of knowledge. That's why it's called Jnana Samadhi. There's a difference between the two.
So one question.
Shoot.
So, Kritva Jnanam Swayam Nakshe. Swayam is what?
The thought, vritti. What gives you knowledge? The thought gives you the knowledge. No?
Kritva Jnanam. When I gain the knowledge.
Once again, when I am teaching you, unless there is a thought in your mind, yes, that is true, I am Brahman, will knowledge happen in your mind?
No.
That thought is called Akhandakara Vritti. We have seen that elaborately. So, Kritva Jnanam, after having created that knowledge, it dies down. The thought dies down, but the knowledge remains.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have any questions, should. I don't want confusions between this Samadhi, Andha Samadhi, Jnana Samadhi, because it's a very big confusing thing, because people talk all sorts of nonsense. So-called Vedanta Acharyas also talk about this like that.
So Kritva Jnanam Swayam Nakshe means the thought dies down.
Yes.
It is
The thought is not going to remain permanently in your mind. Na? Problem ho jayega. Because after that you can go and have a cup of coffee. I'm Brahman, I'm Brahman, I'm Brahman. Yeah. but the knowledge remains with you.
So, Swamiji, when we say the knowledge remains in the mind.
Yeah. Because the ignorance was in the mind only. No? Atma doesn't have the problems of knowledge or ignorance. Atma objectifies both knowledge and ignorance. It doesn't have any issue. The mistaken I, the consciousness that is manifest in the mind, that I has a problem. Because in the mind there is ignorance. Therefore, the manasa eva anudrashtavyam, in the mind alone the knowledge has to take place. Because if it doesn't take place in the mind, how will ignorance in the mind go away? Otherwise, it will be like my maid saying, I am expecting guests, I put on the AC in the sitting room. Okay. So she is coming and sweeping the street. Says, इधर अभी तो किया था ना, दूसरा रूम गंदगी है. हाँ सर, मुझे दूसरा रूम में गंदगी है, लेकिन इधर अच्छा है, इसके लिए और एक टेबल. It's nice and pleasant here. But by cleaning the sitting room, the dirt in the kitchen is not going to get cleaned. Na? Same way, if the ignorance is in your mind, the knowledge has to take place in the mind, not elsewhere. And elsewhere, where is knowledge going to take place? I would like to know. Knowledge is in the mind, not anywhere else. So if you don't get knowledge in the mind, where are you going to get knowledge? In the body? Yeah.
Unlike other knowledge that you get,
Yeah.
any other knowledge which you obviously objectify, and because you objectify, it's like evidence of the knowledge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So in this case, obviously that does not happen.
Correct.
So you know, like you said, when you watch the sunset, you enjoy it, but you know it's not
Yeah.
real. Like that, at that moment when your mind is resolved, there is no evidence, so to speak.
No,
right? I mean, so there's no way of knowing.
Correct. There is no evidence, but you will be full of knowledge and you will be full of joy also. Ananda will be there as an experience will be there. That's why they mistake that Ananda experience equal to knowledge. Ananda of Samadhi means your meditation is going very well. No. Prajnaya asanko bhavet. You will see all that. In the blocks to meditation, we will see all that.
So, I mean, it's in a way, it's the momentary,
Yeah.
a moment of nishtha, right?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
many such moments and continuous
Yeah.
moments and hours and
Correct.
days, like it says.
Yeah. Until, how long will you practice? Until he says, yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadaya. Wherever the mind goes, is thinking of anything and everything. It is not away from this knowledge. The knowledge is always there in that mind. You are enjoying a good meal, the fact your Brahman is not gone away. You are relating to friends, the knowledge of Brahman and their Brahman is not gone away. You are fighting a war, the knowledge of Brahman, the enemy is also Brahman is not gone away. That is why Bhishma could be so ruthless. See, Bhishma was a great guy and he had this knowledge with him. That's why he could be a great warrior also. He used to kill one battalion every day. One battalion was wiped out by one man every day. Can you imagine at what level was that combat? Because his job is to fight on the side of the Kauravas. That is a promise and this thing, that is dharma. His swadharma was that I will do it. Ruthlessly.
So the flip side of that is what Pujya Swamiji always refers to, which is he says you become deeply compassionate, your
Yes.
heart opens up. And
Both can come into you. You can be very compassionate and very ruthless simultaneously. Same time. The ruthless part, very few people recognize. That's why I'm highlighting it. Compassionate part is expected out of a wise person. Isn't it? Compassion is expected out of a wise person. And wise people are compassionate. They put up with a lot of nonsense. I know how much nonsense Puja Swamiji put up with all of us. Each character, some Kiskela characters, each one of us were sample pieces.
You must be feeling the same.
Yeah, that's why the parampara goes on. Don't worry.
You have been trained well as well.
Evam parampara praptam. So the compassion is easy to understand. The ruthlessness is not easy to understand. Bhishma, a classical example, ruthless. Once Duryodhana came to Bhishma and said, "Sir, you are not doing enough in this battle." And Bhishma looks at him with a smile and says, "What do you want me to do? How many people you want me to kill in?" And Duryodhana, like the idiot he was, said, "1 battalion." So Bhishma smiled and said, "No problems. 1 battalion is one day is enough for you?" Yes. He did that in 1 hour. 1 hour he wiped out an Akshoni. 1 lakh people. 1 hour. Then he said, this is a job the king has asked me to do. I am retiring from the battlefield now. He went back and relaxed up in his tent. And the Kaurava army got mauled that day afterwards because Bhishma is out of the field. One of the greatest warriors out of the field. The Kaurava army got mauled. Duryodhana goes back to, "Please fight your way. Don't leave us." The ruthlessness that is capable of. We forget this part of it. Unless we look at Bhishma, unless we look at Parashurama. The Kshatriyas have become too wild, too much of war orientation is there. Overdoing the Kshatriya spirit also is a problem. Exactly like overdoing the Ahimsa spirit can be a problem, overdoing the Kshatriya spirit also can be a problem. Therefore, he wiped out all the Kshatriyas. Straight. Too much of it. Problem. My God. Yeah. That's the ruthlessness of it. Compassion is easy to understand. The ruthlessness, because na hanya mane sharire, where is birth, where is death anyway? I am neither the killer nor the killed. Chidananda Rupo Shivoham Shivoham. Somebody should write a verse like that. Not this man. Abadhyankaram Chittanina. Sone ko aata hai. What samadhi? You go to sleep the way they are singing it. Yeah. Maybe I'll get somebody to compose something like this. The ruthlessness that can be there. Because sometimes in the world you require that. You can be very compassionate, very this, but when action is necessary, action is necessary. When ruthlessness is necessary, that is necessary. In fact, when Duryodhana was born, Vidura said, "This boy will be the cause of the death of the Kaurava race. Finish him now." Nobody did it. Bhishma agreed. But Dhritarashtra and his wife could not. Parents, I can understand that. Can be compassionate enough to understand that. And maybe it is a time for the Kaurava race to come to an end anyway. But imagine that. If they kill that kid,
No Gita.
no Mahabharata war also.
No Gita actually.
Yeah. So why do you need the Gita when the Mahabharata war is not there? Upanishads are there, na? Someone mute their phones. There's too much of racket happening. Okay, I muted everyone. Okay. Yeah. So that is it. The ruthlessness part is also necessary. That's why Dharma says that one person can be sacrificed for the sake of the family. One family can be sacrificed for the sake of the village. One village can be sacrificed for the sake of the whole district. One district can be sacrificed for the sake of the country. This is thinking at a global level, okay? That is why to be a ruler is not easy. Ruling is not an easy job. A ruler has to be tough. A warrior has to be tough. There is no choice. He can have compassion, but no misplaced compassion. Misplaced compassion can get into great problems. It's the misplaced compassion that always gets into great problems. Yeah. So, this is what Jnana Samadhi is about. Okay. Any questions on this, or this much is clear? The difference between Samadhi and deep sleep as far as Jnana Samadhi goes. If you are talking about Andha Samadhi, there is no difference between deep sleep and Andha Samadhi. Because there is no knowledge anyway in Andha Samadhi. In sleep also there is no knowledge. In what you call Andha Samadhi also there is no knowledge. Therefore, what is the difference then? What is the difference? No difference. No, Swamiji, I am doing it for energy work. Then that's entirely different thing. That is entirely a different thing. And let me tell you, all energy work is not based on nirvikalpa. A lot of vikalpas are there before that. Now, you will remember Drigdrishya Viveka? Drishyanvita Samadhi, Shabdanvita Samadhi, etc. You can go into Samadhi in different ways. Maybe in a camp I will do that part of it, the Samadhi part of it, which normally when we are teaching Drigdrishya Viveka, we leave out because it can be confusing, but maybe next camp. Can you go into Samadhi with an open-eyed meditation? Familiar example for all of you. What is this book? Listen carefully, don't say anything. This is Drishya Anvita. Okay? Book is only a name. What is there is paper. Paper is only a name. What is there is wood pulp. Name, hydrocarbons. Name, molecules. Name, atoms. Name, subatomic particles. Name, pure existence consciousness. Correct? Savikalpa, na? Pure existence. Then, when it becomes nirvikalpa, the book and your book will drop, your eyes will close. Or may not. Book will remain, eyes will close, there is nothing. Nirvikalpa, pure consciousness. Existence consciousness. That's it. Open-eyed. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's easier. Or take a word. That word we have already done in our meditation practice last class. At the end of it we did that. That is using the word. Consciousness, etc. Using that word you get into it. But using an object form and from the form going into the content. And the content of this is not different from the content of me. All that will remain is only one consciousness. Can be done both ways. Can be done both ways. Usually for most people it's easier to sit down, close your eyes and all that. But I allow the open-eyed meditation also. मजा आता है. मैं रास्ता पर जा रहा था. Don't try it when you are walking. I was sitting in the garden. Oh, what a beautiful, charming young lady. Yes. That lady is beautiful because there is a beautiful person inside. That lady is beautiful because it is nothing but manifestation of consciousness. All that is there is one consciousness, not different from me. Possible? Of course it is possible. Maybe difficult for many men because from the form to move to the content is a bit difficult. It is like what I joked when I was in college. A beautiful girl walked in and my demonstrator found me looking at it. Come on, yaar, I'm a young 17-year-old. What do you expect me to do when a beautiful girl walks in? Not to look? Come on, I'm human. And that time I didn't have all the Vedanta with me. So the demonstrator was smart. Saying, relax, champ. That is 80% water. So I looked at him and said, true, sir, but look at the surface tension. Those of you who got it, okay. So your mind is caught up in that. If you can move to the content of the pure consciousness. What is that vibrant form is? That vibrancy is nothing but consciousness. Or kya? Where is the vibrancy otherwise? How is a dead body? To feel something for a dead body, there is something sick about you. So to shift. Open-eyed meditation, closed-eyed meditation. Do what works for you. Do what works for you. I teach normally the other one, the closed-eye meditation, because that's easier for most people. How long will you do? Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadhaya. Wherever the mind goes, the mind does not move away from this knowledge. The mind is in samadhi. Mind is in the mind is awake to this knowledge. Savikalpa. There is never a question of out of sight, out of mind, because the Atma is never out of sight. It's I. It's always there behind the mind. It cannot go out of the mind. Neither can the mind go out of the Atma. Atma cannot go out of the mind cannot go out of the Atma. Even in deep sleep, the mind is resolved to the ignorance that is there in the Atma anyway. The whole thing is based on Atma only. So how can it be out of sight, out of mind? Until you reach that state, you keep contemplating. After that, what? After that, do whatever you want. After that, what do you have to do? Nothing. After that, you can say, why do you want to put this disturbance called meditation into my mind? Then like Tirthaji, you can say that. Yeah. He was a great one for paradoxes like that. Yeah. He would throw that into the class sometimes. You look at मोक्ष ज्ञान से होता है? नहीं नहीं, ज्ञान से मोक्ष नहीं होता है. And he would laugh. And in that laughter, everything was clear. For me, in that laughter, everything got cleared. Why? Because moksha is not an event to happen, it's only your swarupa. You only have to recognize it. No. It doesn't happen with knowledge. होता नहीं है, हाई स्वरूप ही है. But he wouldn't say that. He'll put it like this and laugh. Because it is an advanced class. People are supposed to get it. All doing Brahma Sutra. So, yeah. So same way here. Until you reach that, keep contemplating. It's good. Now.
Swamiji, may I ask?
Yeah, sure, Nidhu.
Swamiji, I mean, that was really amazing. Moksha gyan se nahi hota hai, but often when you are speaking, Swamiji, or explaining, I do have some sense of, like in the moment I feel like I've understood, I have a sense of a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
So is that not experiential of how moksha could be and would be?
Yeah. See, moksha is your Swarupa, but we have moved far away from it. In our thinking, in our conceptualization, in our identification. Therefore, to bring that mind backwards, back into your, it takes some time and effort. That's why it seems as though it is created. It's not created, it's your. Now, what is created? Noise is created or silence is created? Same way, silence is natural, noise has to be created. Similarly, a moksha is not created, it's natural, but we think we are bound. Because we think you are bound, you have to go back a long way. Therefore, contemplation can happen only in a contemplative mind. Now, this is very important. You don't meditate to get a contemplative mind. You develop a contemplative mind so that meditation happens. Very, very important. How do you develop that? Karma Yoga lifestyle is one. Because worry, anxiety, etc. manage. Now remember, you are not creating peace. Peace is your Swarupa. You are only handling all the disturbances, worry, anxiety, etc. So, when you manage all that, so how do you take care of it? What is it that you need? Too many regrets of the past, too much of pain, etc. Then deal with that. Too much of worry, anxiety, etc. Karma Yoga Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi, deal with that. You get very hyper. Hyper means there is some pressure inside. Deal with that. Yeah, you can get hyper only if there is a lot of pressure inside. Some unresolved issues are there inside. That's why you are so hyper. Now it has become a habit with you. You are under stress and it became a habit to become hyper. Break that habit after dealing with the issue inside. If you try to deal with your hyperness without dealing with the issue inside, maximum will work 30%, 40%, not more than that. Those of you who are here know whether I am referring to you or not. Okay, each person knows that. So with hyper, you have to see. Each person has to see what they need. Now he gives a general prescription in terms of how to develop a contemplative mind. That is known as Ashtanga Yoga. Sorry. When I use words now, I have to see the modern meanings of the word also. Nirmala, what does Ashtanga Yoga mean in today's world? Patavi Joyce?
Yeah, they focus more on physical practices rather than the 8 steps.
Yeah, that is not Ashtanga Yoga. You ask Anusha, she will tell you. Yeah, Ashtanga Yoga is the eightfold path. The eight-limbed yoga. Ashtanga. Yoga is the body, 8 limbs. So he is giving you that as a preparation for contemplation, to get a contemplative mind. I remember saying this in some class and one yoga teacher getting very upset because I said this is preparation. Champion लोग होता है, ऐसा बृहस्पति भी होता है. What to do? Too much conditioned by your own ideas.
Swamiji,
Yeah?
in this sloka number 200, he starts with Asyangani, not Ashtangani. Sloka number 200.
All.
Yeah, Asyangani.
He starts with Asyangani, not Ashtangani. Is that mistake?
Okay. This is what happens when Sanskrit knowledge is very, very poor. Asya means what? For this. For this samadhi practice, asya, angani, limbs. Asya, for this samadhi practice, the limbs I am mentioning. Okay. That doesn't have anything to do with Ashtanga or not. If you look at the footnote in that translation, that this, he is saying Nirvikalpa Samadhi. For this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, these are the limbs. And if you count the limbs, you will get 8 of them.
Swamiji, I had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swamiji,
Yeah.
see, because now we say meditation is very important in owning up the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So then, especially in Kali Yuga now,
Beg your pardon? Sunita, I can't hear you.
then it becomes
Can't hear you.
especially in Kali Yuga now, then it becomes a kind of a pramana, no?
Yes. Did anyone understand what she's saying? No, nobody has got what you are saying. Your connection is poor. Switch off your video and say,
Yeah,
Sunita, switch off your video and say the same question, maybe it's better.
yeah. Can Nityasanam become a pramana now that we stress so much on meditation, along with Shravanam? Because with Shravanam, as we said, very few people in history also. So Nididhyasanam we stressed so
Good
much
question.
on it.
Will
So then
Nididhyasanam also
it
be taken as a pramana?
Pramanam only, no?
No, because if in pramana vyapara, new has to take place. Okay, in pramana, new knowledge has to take place. There is no new knowledge taking place in Nididhyasana. The knowledge that you have got before is being repeated. Therefore, there is no new knowledge. If no new knowledge is taking place, you cannot call it a pramana, you can only call it jnana abhyasa at the maximum. Remember the definition of pramana: abhadita anadigata jnana janakam. A pramana is that which will give you abhaditam jnanam, knowledge which cannot be negated, plus knowledge which is not gained before by any other source. Does that fit into Nididhyasanam? It's already gained, no? Knowledge.
Yes, I got it.
So it doesn't fit in. Exactly. So it cannot be a pramana. So after this we will go into the Ashtanga. The same thing in Aproksha Anubhuti, a book called Aproksha Anubhuti, he has developed into 15, 16 steps. Okay? Which it's a way of looking at it. You can keep on dividing, subdividing, etc. Okay? But we will see that. So we will see the whole Ashtanga Yoga. We will see how it is meant to prepare for knowledge. Now, when you are understanding yoga as a philosophy, what backs up yoga in today's world is Sankhya. They are based on Sankhya philosophy, not on Vedanta. Though originally, because there are Yoga Upanishads present, there are some 20-30 Yoga Upanishads, okay? Upanishads dealing with the subject matter of yoga. Therefore, I would say that it should be Vedanta that is backing up yoga, not Sankhya. But why have they taken it as Sankhya quite some time back, from Patanjali's time onwards? Why they have taken up Sankhya, not yoga, and not Vedanta? Probably because in yogasanas, in yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, there are things to be done. You have to take it seriously and do it. Vedantins have one problem. सब मिथ्या है ना, क्या करने का है? After all, knowledge will give you ना. Jnanam is enough. All this is mithya. Correct है? All this is mithya. If you are feeling hungry and you want to eat lunch, that hunger is also mithya, okay? So skip lunch, then you will understand. Yeah. So, because probably they found people who are not taking it seriously, they said, okay, let us align it with Sankhya. Because then you will take it more seriously, because the idea of mithya is not there in Sankhya anyway. Not the way it is there in Vedanta, it is not there. Erroneous knowledge is there, but not the mithyatvam of the world is not there. So you will take it more seriously. So probably for that, they aligned it like that. But we will look at it from the light of Vedanta, etc. and see what can be done, not done. How much had to be done, not done. All that we will see from the next class onwards, okay? So take a break today. have a look into the whole question of Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam, Samadhi, etc. If there are any questions, come back next class with it. Okay. Good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.